Okay, it is 5:30. We are going to go ahead and get started. And first up will be the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up, we will have introductions, and we will start with Mrs. Von Koenig.
Hi,
And your name is?
Lori Von Koenig.
Scott Allen.
Griffin Ott.
Rachel Wade.
Greg Eating.
Jessica Bigley.
Okay, our first item of business is approval of our agenda for tonight's meeting. Board members, you've had a chance to look over the agenda. Are there any questions or revisions? If not, I will accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on to the consent agenda items, including financial statements and bills, and then a letter of agreement related to loan repayment programs. I've had a chance to look over all of that. Any questions or comments?
So the loan repayment is just a state fund allowing teachers to get reimbursed for college education.
Yeah, where'd Tracy go? She's right there.
Yes, it is. So it's 27K, and it is for this past fiscal year. So it was beginning October 1st. We just applied for it last week on the deadline. We had about 20 teachers apply for the loans. We will not find out if we're granted that here for a little bit, and we've been told we probably won't receive the money until October of this year, of this upcoming year. So it's going to take a while.
And basically, the state put this program in place and then had districts run it.
Figure it out.
Yeah, okay. And I think, does that flow through money, basically?
Yes, it'll be in and out. So we'll get
Yeah.
it on state aid, and then we'll pay it out to our staff members.
All right.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
And this is a roll call vote. So Mrs. Von Koenig,
Aye.
Mr. Allen,
Aye.
Mr. Ott,
Aye.
Mrs. Bigley,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, now for the part that most of you are probably here for. Good news about our schools. Mr. Eating, what do we have tonight?
Yeah, tonight we are joined by Miss Arend and Mr. Graziano, and I don't know if any other teachers are here from that group, but these are the teachers who kind of oversaw the trip to Washington, D.C. So I know we have a group of students here as well.
Come on up. So first, I just wanted to say thank you so much for approving this trip. It is definitely an annual tradition at LMS, and we look forward to it every year. So Mr. Graziano is back organizing the trip after Mrs. Engelman retired, and I was lucky enough to chaperone it last year. He didn't ask me to this year. Not sure why, but I'll forgive him eventually. But no, it's such a great trip, and thank you always for approving and supporting us in these educational endeavors. So I'll let the kids take it away.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lila. This is Kaya, Jackson, Langley, and Allison here to speak with me tonight. And I'll start off with saying this trip lasted about 4 days. We walked approximately 75,000 steps. We had 82 eighth graders and 9 chaperones total, and I can tell you we had a great time.
This has been a tradition for the past couple years. I'm not exactly sure how long, but we went to a ton of memorials and museums and other experiences or tours that were really just a great, immersive experience for everyone. One of my personal favorites was the Holocaust Museum. I also really liked going to the American History Museum with all my friends and just kind of having the freedom to, pick maybe where you want to go or what interests you was something that was really, unique about this trip.
So, four of us from LMS got selected because we had to write a essay and got selected to lay a wreath on the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. This, I can't really put into words how big of an honor this was, because I would like to go into the military, and this was phenomenal to start off my career. I can't describe how much of an honor this was. Words can't carry the weight of it.
A different wreath that we got to lay was at George Washington's tomb. We got to tour his house in Mount Vernon, and at the end of it, we got a little speech. We did the Pledge of Allegiance, and then me and Allison got to lay the wreath there, and it was just, like Jackson said, just undescribable honor that we got to do.
Thank you for hearing us out today. Do you have any questions?
What are your names?
This is Lila, Kaya, Jackson, Langley, and I'm Allison.
What about the last names?
Oh,
Lila Schultz, Kaya Butcher.
Jackson Streelman.
Langley Toothwat.
and Allison Bilone.
Going to DC is such an amazing opportunity. What's one biggest takeaway or something how you've changed that you'll moving forward? Was there an interesting story? I know you talked about the wreaths and everything, but what was a highlight that?
I mean, like the history behind like the Holocaust Museum, and like we've learned about the Holocaust in school, but just going to this museum definitely extended like our learning abilities.
Yeah,
forward.
it definitely showed how much pain and people had to go through. And I know a lot of people, it was hard for them to get through that. That was one thing that really showed how much, why we do these things, to go and learn more about what has happened in the past so that it will never happen again.
I think an additional large takeaway is just the fact, like the amount of independence that the kids are trusted with on a trip like this. Mr. Graziano does a great job of preparing the kids for it, to say, like, hey, if the four of you are in a room together, no one, like, there's not an adult per room. You have a ton of independence on this trip, but, you know, with a lot of independence comes great responsibility. And so, in addition to, yes, the memorials, yes, the museums, yes, our amazing tour guides on this trip, I think that's another huge takeaway, just as far as them being in 8th grade and having that level of independence. I mean, how many of you have been that far out of state without your parents in the past? Right?
Yeah.
So I think just in general, just such a learning experience too, to realize, like, okay, like I got this. So
Something that Mr. Gross did say to us was, you'll get out what you put into this trip. And so the people who I think chose to put in the effort to learn and go through all the experiences definitely got the reward of doing that.
So you all are the best commercial for this year's 7th graders who could potentially go on this trip next year. What would you say to them to encourage them and their parents to send them on this trip next year?
I would say that if you have to put a lot of trust in your child, but knowing that they'll behave and that they'll do the right thing, that everything should be okay, and that the teachers will do everything in their power to keep their child safe, and that if you pay attention and you try to comprehend and understand everything that is going on in the museums and the tours, and becoming like more independent on this trip, then it will definitely take you far.
Like how Mr. Gross said it was not a vacation, it was a learning experience, and that's definitely what it was. We were always active in like the activities, like how Kaya read through like the list of what we did. We were always in different places, so I feel like the 7th graders should be prepared for that.
Yeah.
How
Well,
long did you guys sleep after you got home?
So long.
Yeah.
With an itinerary like that, I can imagine.
so I went on this trip when I was in 8th grade at what was then Lakeshore Junior High, before we changed its name to the middle school, back in 1993. So it's been a hot minute since I was in 8th grade. But I remember my experiences on that trip, and then my family went back 2 summers ago, and experiencing it again as an adult. I'm really glad I had a little bit of that foundation from having gone when I was in 8th grade. And I think I got to experience it differently as an adult, having seen many of these places once before. So very grateful that you all took advantage of the opportunity, that your parents trusted you, that your teachers trusted you, and just congratulations to all of you for getting to have that experience. And thank you for everything you've shared tonight.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Mr. Graziano and all the chaperones for all the work you guys did too. Well done.
Yeah. Any other questions? Great. Thank you.
Mr. Graziano, thanks for running this trip for the next 5 years for us too. I appreciate it.
Quick story. I was done. I was at graduation last year. I saw 3 kids on the video screen say this was one of the most impactful thing they had. So that's why I did it.
Yeah.
Because I'm closer to out than I am in.
We can make that happen again this year, Mr. Graziano.
Okay, moving on. Superintendent's informational reports.
Great, thank you. April is now here, which means we begin our state testing window. Each of our buildings will be taking state-level assessments, providing us with one measure of feedback on how we are doing in the area of reading, math, science, and social studies. The assessments require a lot of behind-the-scenes logistical work by our administrators and staff, and I just want to say thank you to each of those who spend time in organizing and preparing for these assessments. Also, a big thank you to our students and parents for taking these assessments seriously, getting the needed sleep and nutrition to do their very best. I'll add one quick note to that. Stewart this year was selected to be a school that was audited for the MSTEP assessment, and they had their assessment last week, and it went by with flying colors, so they did a great job. So very happy with that. This past weekend at the Michigan State Robotics Championship, Team Lancebot battled through 12 tough matchups and ended up receiving a bid to the World Championships. They'll be traveling to Houston, Texas to compete in Worlds from April 17th through the 20th. Really excited for them. It's very exciting.
This is the first time of that experience for them,
I
correct?
think so, yeah. Yeah, awesome. The week of April 22nd, the Central Office Business Department will be attending the Michigan School Business Officials Conference in Grand Rapids. This conference brings all school business officials together in the state, learning more about the upcoming state budget, as well as changes to the state accounting practices. This year I'll be joining the team and look forward to learning together. Spring sports are underway, which means our entire community gets a little busier. If you didn't notice, there's a track meet going on, which a middle school track meet is a much happier being here than managing a middle school track meet. Let's just put it that way. In just a few short weeks, we'll be in May, which is crazy. And that means you have things like seniors honors night, graduation, and really the last few days before summer begins. We are committed in Lakeshore to ending our school year strong and keeping our focus on the education of each and every student. So that's our information report.
Thank you. Tracy, student enrollment update. Officially, this says, tonight, Tracy Althouse will give a presentation on the historical student enrollment data as well as the projected enrollment for the next 5 years.
I'm not weirdly staring at you. There's a screen behind you. So.
We just like to look at Ms. Arendt.
There we go.
So as Greg's pointed out, we will be learning a lot, especially with the upcoming budgets for the legislation. And this is part of the piece of beginning that budget, which is our enrollment projections. I cannot get this thing to work, probably user error. So first I'd like to go through historical, what has been our fall student count, as well as our professional staff count. I'm sure it is. It was off. User error, like I said. While you see above that enrollment has slightly decreased, we have outpaced our projections that we have done by Dr. Fred Gnatovich. So again, while you see that trend, we also are typically better than those projections. our staff count, as you see, has gone up. This has been increased, working with the union to stabilize and make it equitable for planning time for both our elementary and our secondaries. And we have utilized grant funding to do this. And it's not like we're going to be looking at a fiscal cliff, as we have seen in some Michigan schools. We've been very strategic in how we've budgeted and deferred revenue to keep these programs in place.
And just a comment on our student enrollment. Lakeshore is not the only district that is seeing declines. That's across the board. So it's not like this is something unusual or special or concerning just for our community.
Correct. This is seen throughout the state of Michigan. The next few slides are just historical data by elementary, middle school, and high school. In the elementary, we can visibly see that class size has gone down. We are now at one of the lowest we've been at. A lot of, hold on, let me just start that all over again. I apologize. Again, class sizes have gone down in the elementary schools. In our middle school, it's been approximately the same for the past few years. Our class ratio has been about a little over 26 per class. And in our high school, again, about the same, between 22.9 and 22.7. And then we'll spend the rest of the time on this slide. So our fall count was 2669. What Dr. Fred has asked us typically to use is the blended count. So last year, the blended count was 2643, so we were over 20 above what he projected. If we look at his most likely account from last year, it was 2663. So he's pretty darn close with where he thinks we're going to be. We're going to be meeting with the union in the upcoming weeks to, again, start our 24-25 budget. This is a piece of the enrollment, and it appears right now will be about 2624 if we used most likely, which is a 40 decrease. However, this is only a piece of what we use for enrollment projections. We also do a lot of internal calculations and get the union to help us in determining that amount. So this is, again, just a piece of what we're going to be going through to get our enrollment projections. So again, the overall takeaway is, while the state is decreasing and we're slightly decreasing, we do see positives. We're beating the projected amount that we think that will be down. It was very good this year. Our fall enrollment is typically higher than our spring enrollment. This year it was opposite. Our spring enrollment was 10 higher than our fall. So this could be a really good year going into 24-25. It could be a very total anomaly. So this is great news. But again, that's our very brief enrollment projections for this upcoming year.
Any questions for Tracy?
Just to clarify for those in the audience or that might watch this on, the stream and stuff, the importance of the enrollment is because a lot of our funding comes from per pupils, state funding. So as that's trending down, we do see a decrease in that, and that makes it a little bit harder for us overall on that funding note. But just to clarify, so people understand that that's why we track it, and that's why it kind of plays such a big part in budget and everything else that we do.
Thank you for mentioning it. Yes, the state portion of what we get for our revenue is based on our student enrollment. So it is very important going into budgeting to be as close as possible to as this is a major component of what we get our revenue on.
And especially when we're going into budgeting and we don't know what the state budget is going to be and don't know what that per pupil allotment is going to be. So there's a lot of question marks that we have no control over going into this entire process.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Tracy as she walks away? All right, next up are our reports from our Board of Education committees. First is Administrative Affairs. Mrs. Von Koenig, could you read that report, please?
Yes. The Administrative Affairs Committee met on Tuesday, March 26th. Present at the meeting were Griffin Ott, Susan Toothman, Greg Eating, and Lori Von Koenig. The committee discussed several staffing situations throughout the district.
Thank you. And Facilities and Finance. Mr. Ott, could you share that, please?
The Facilities and Finance Committee met on April 11th, consisting of Rachel Wade, Jessica Bigley, Greg Eating, Tracy Althouse, and myself. Items discussed included, but were not limited to, the following: Tracy presented the monthly finances, including cash flows, monthly investments, and sinking fund and trust account expenditures. Nothing of concern was noted. Budget modification number 3 was discussed, and it will be summarized at tonight's meeting. Tracy spoke about the Section 27K loan repayment program. During the consent portion of tonight's meeting, which we already did, the board was asked to approve the Section 27K plan and the necessary IRS plan, which was written by Troon Law Firm. Greg discussed the possible budget implications of an ORS percentage reduction, which is being discussed at the legislative level. And the district will be asking the board to approve a bid for 2 buses with an expected October delivery. Tracy will be asking for the board to reserve the amount in budget modification number 4.
Thank you. Lastly is the policy committee. So Mr. Allen, could you share that report, please?
The policy committee met on Thursday, April 11th. Present at the meeting were Bill Scaletta, Lori Von Koenig, Greg Eating, and myself. The committee met and got caught up on several situations throughout the district, including current work being done within the bond, marketing plans for a sinking fund campaign, several staffing issues, and some upcoming changes for the 2024-25 school year. The next committee meeting will include working through some minor policy changes.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda is to talk about changing the dates and times of our next couple of meetings. So let me read through this. Due to the high school honors night being on the same night as our May 13th or is it May 13th?
Yeah.
May 13th board meeting.
Yes.
For some reason, I had the 10th stuck in my head. Let me start that over. Due to high school honors night being on the same night as the May 13th board meeting, the board needs to discuss the possibility of moving up the start time. And just as a side note, live streaming will not be available for this board meeting because it will be set up for honors night instead. So what we're proposing is that we move the May meeting to start at 5 o'clock instead of 5:30 because honors night starts at 7, and I know at least Mr. Allen and I will be needing to skedaddle over there for honors night. So that's the first proposal, is that we move the May 13th start time to 5 o'clock instead of 5:30. And then for the June meeting, historically, our June meeting falls on the same day as the LEF golf outing, which I know has caused some scheduling challenges for folks. And so we are proposing to move that to June 17th.
Yeah, it's 1 week later.
Which
And
is the
this year,
following
it's a little
Monday.
different because the LEF golf outing has been moved to a venue that's a little farther away as
Okay.
well. So I think it could be a little bit touchy timing-wise to be able to get back in time.
Okay, so again, May 13th, we would start at 5 o'clock, and the June meeting would be June 17th, not the 10th.
And that would just start at a traditional time at 5:30. So.
Yes. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, discussion?
I will not be able to make the June meeting on the 17th.
Okay,
So I don't know if there's an issue with a quorum or not, but
okay.
I'm out.
And it doesn't matter what time we were to start, right?
Our flight gets into O'Hare at 5:30 p.m., so
That would be very difficult.
in time.
Got it.
Any other discussion related to these 2 meetings? If not, I would entertain a motion to make those changes.
So moved?
Support.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Excellent. Thank you for your flexibility with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up is the previously mentioned quarterly budget modification number 3. So we're going to bring Tracy back up. It says tonight, Tracy Althouse will review the quarterly budget modification number 3 and recommended adoption by the board.
This one I won't need the clicker for because we'll stay on this page. For budget modification number 3, typically in the past, it's been very small. And it is this way again, as basically our projected revenues went up by about 500,000 and our projected expenditures went up about 500,000. So basically this is an in and out of revenue. So our net change is very minimal, about 15,000, and our fund balance percentage stays fairly consistent, hovering around that 12.5%. Some of the changes of why this went up and down is our LEF grant utilization. We very consciously worked with our staff members to get the grant funds utilized. With everything going on with our teachers, sometimes with the grants they've received, there's just reasons they can't get to it and spend the money. This year, we made a very conscious effort to get that money spent, which is a boom to the district. So again, that rose our expenditures and, well, rose our revenue and our expenditures. Also, some of the changes included reclassification of the stipend that was given in right before spring break. So that just shifted some of our expenditures. We also received our 31 AA money. This is the at-risk on steroids that I like to call it. We finally received confirmation that we received the money, so we can now recognize that. Besides that, again, this is typically just minor tweaks to the budget. Our big adjustments will come in the next budget modification, where I will be asking about reserving for the buses and some other housekeeping items.
And Facilities and Finance did go over this in a significant amount of detail last week.
Do you have any? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, board members, do you have any questions? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve budget modification number 3.
So moved.
Support.
And this is a roll call vote. So Mrs. Von Koenig,
Aye.
Mr. Allen,
Aye.
Mr. Ott,
Aye.
Mrs. Bigley,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Thank you, Tracy. Moving on to a bid approval request for the purchase of 2 buses.
Yeah, I think this was in the Facilities and Finance report. 2 bids were received for the purchase of 2 school buses. Mr. White, our Director of Operations, is recommending the acceptance of the lower bid, which is $162 lower, by Holland Bus Company in the amount of $342,452. That's for the 2 buses.
Excellent. Any discussion or questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
And this will be a roll call vote. So Mrs. Von Koenig,
Aye.
Mr. Allen,
Aye.
Mr. Ott,
Aye.
Mrs. Bigley,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Can I ask a question on that one? Sorry, I probably shouldn't. I think this might be an interesting question. Tracy, is this money that came through the state for?
Correct. This is money, part of this bid will be paid for money from the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan has come to its senses, for lack of better terms, to realize that running transportation is extremely costly for districts. We received approximately $260,000 towards these buses.
Excellent. That's what I thought. It was and that was part of the last budget last year, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for that
Yeah,
clarification.
Should have done it before the vote.
Next up, an out-of-state trip. Mr. Eating, what are we looking at tonight?
Oh, I'm gonna get down to it. So, high school teacher Jeff Chorney is requesting permission for 22 Math Science Center juniors to travel to Cedar Point for a physics day on May 21, 2024. The students will be collecting data on several roller coasters and will be using this data to do further analysis and answer questions about each of the roller coasters. We also making a comparison between different groups.
And this
It's
is
actually
one.
a great day.
And this is one of those requests where it was usually Kevin or Bill who would say, "Do you need chaperones to go along?"
Yeah, exactly.
Board members, any questions or discussion?
Do they need chaperones?
There you go. Nicely timed. Nicely timed. If there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Supported.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right. Then second to last item is public comment. Did we have anyone register for public comment? All
No, we
right.
did not.
Then we move past that. And to the final matter of the night is to adjourn the meeting. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your evening.